thought that Luke was a physician, and that may be so. But I know what Luke was. Luke is a pastor. And Luke is talking to his church, and he is trying to give them instruction on the things that will bring them a better life and closer to the relationship with God. So the reading today is from the 9th chapter, beginning at the 28th verse. Now about 8 days after these sayings, Jesus took with him Peter, John, and James, and went up to the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw two men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep, but since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the two men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, Master, Master, it's good for us to be here. Hey, let's make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Not knowing what he said, which he was good at. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, This is my son, my chosen. Listen to him. And when the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days told no one of the things that they had seen. This is the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. I just wondered if I could... No. When I was 20 years old, I had the privilege of leading a crew, or actually hiring a crew in Anchorage, Alaska, after the big earthquake up there. I know some of you would remember it, and some of you would say, what earthquake? But it was massive. And I was excited to go. I was on the design team that developed the piece of equipment and the system that we're going to use to support JCPenney in the rebuilding of their 3-story building in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. It was an amazing sight. You go out to Turnagain Arms, and if you imagine a building like this sitting at 45-degree angle, if you see houses pushed up against each other and leaning over, and it was some time, so now all the debris is starting to grow, the bushes, the weeds and everything were filling in the area, and they were just starting to get green, and there was an awesome beauty about it, and it's hard to explain, but when you're standing there and you're awed by the vision, and at the same time seeing the creation of God pushing itself through the cracks and reestablishing itself and literally taking over the area. So once they ultimately cleared it, which was a couple of years after I was there, they were able to replow it. The hospital had moved about 1/4 mile out towards the bay. And so they rerouted the road, and they were able to extend the sewer system and the power lines and the gas, and they were able to reestablish the hospital. It's an awesome site and an awesome power. On another adventure I had, I went to Puerto Rico. How many have been to Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico is a really interesting place, and if you get the chance to go to old Puerto Rico and you see the old buildings, it's amazing the history that's there. And we were out at Arecibo. Anybody ever heard of Arecibo? Okay, you're going to be able to know exactly where it is when I explain this. There is a huge dish, huge, in which they're monitoring signals from space. And in those signals, we saw a movie called Contact. Anybody see the movie Contact? Oh my, one of my favorite scenes is Contact, when Jodie Foster reaches up and she's looking at all the stars and the planets, and she touches it, and it goes like water, as if you could touch the universe. And they're trying to contact aliens. And it's a great movie. I would suggest you look it up, because it's a moving experience to see that. While I was there, I took one of the mechanics that was with me. We were putting in this job for Upjohn Corporation, and we were putting in some automated equipment there. And so I took this guy who was in maintenance with me, and I thought maybe he could show me around the island. And my purpose was to get around the entire island. And he had told me that there were 14 different types of bananas on that island. 14 different types of bananas. The smallest one was about the size, when it was full grown, was about the size of your little finger, at least my little finger. And so we went, we're trying out these bananas as we go, and he knew where all of them were. But finally, after several hours of traveling, we came to the place called El Yunque. El Yunque is one of the highest points in Puerto Rico. And it's about a mile from sea level. And I said, hey, is there a way to get up there? And he said, well, you can drive about halfway. There's a restaurant up there. And once you get up there, you can get out of the car, and then there are steps. But I'm not going. What do you mean you're not going? He says, the mountain is covered with clouds. And so what does that mean? Well, what that means is God is present on the mountain. And he wouldn't go. He said there isn't anybody in Puerto Rico go up that mountain. I said, well, I got to go, because I only got to get one shot at this, and I'm going up the mountain. And as I'm going up the mountain, there was a narrow little track, and it was overgrown. There were steps, and you could take about halfway up. You could take about 4 or 5 steps, and then you had to stop and breathe. And then you take a few more steps, and finally, I got up there, and as I am breaking out of the clouds, now keep in mind that the leaves on this underbrush were bigger than me. And it was closed in, and it was wet, and it was damp. And there were all kinds of critters scurrying through the leaves. And I saw the most beautiful thing that I'd ever seen in my life, present company accepted, it's called a banana quit. And a banana quit looks like a little hummingbird, but it's yellow and fluorescent green. And when I told people when I got back down what I had seen, they said, oh, no, that's 2 months behind the migration. You won't see them there. But I saw it, and I wasn't from here to art, to that little tiny bird, and it was amazing. And when I got up there, it was, as far as you could see, blue. And there's this building there, and the building was about, the quarter of the size of the main worship area here. And in that building were windows, and it was made of concrete, and it was about 18 inches, 2 foot thick. And when I asked them what that was for, they said that was a lookout during World War II. And so they had people up there and radios up